Welcome. Let's buy a home in Irving, Texas. If you're thinking about buying a home in Irving and just need the blueprint, just need absolutely what to do, then you're in the right place. Today we're going to buy a home in Irving. I'm going to show you everything step by step as soon as I check that. This time I turned on my microphone. So let's buy a home in Irving, Texas. All right, so here we go. All right, now all of the notes, all of the templates, all the checklists, everything that you're going to need is going to be in DFWHomebuyerClass.com. And for this particular video, we're breaking down Irving. We're going to go into the property taxes. We're going to go into the homes available for sale and how much it will cost you per month. So you're going to want to stick around. And if you're finding value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button. That's going to really help us out, grow the channel and reach more people just like you. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Let's talk about number one. Let's talk about the mindset. The number one question that I ask our buyers to ask themselves is, where would be a good place for me to be? That's not the question. We're gonna move over here real quick. Let's see if we can give you a better visual right here. All right, if it makes sense for you to buy, will I actually do it? So if it makes sense for me to buy, will I actually do it? This is the number one question that I ask our clients to ask themselves before they go into all of the research, before they go and investigate what the home, the prices of the homes, the mortgage payment, what FHA means versus conventional. This is the golden question. Why? Well, if it makes sense for me to buy, meaning after I've gone through all of it, after I've researched the cities, after I've researched mortgages, after I've researched and gone to so many open houses, gone to so many different homes, when it comes down to it, will I actually go through with it? If the answer is no, if there's really no intentions, if the timing's not right, if you're going to move in a year, if just certain circumstances are going to preclude you from moving forward, again, assuming all the conditions are met, you're not being forced to buy right out front. But if the answer is a non-starter to begin with, then don't start. This is going to help you out so much and avoid so much stress, so much time, so much money invested. Because if you go to all these open houses, well, that costs money. It costs gas money. Going to all these, speak with all these real estate agents, well, it costs you money to do that because you could be doing something else. You could be relaxing, you could be working, you could be doing something that doesn't involve you spending all this time with that home purchase that doesn't end up happening. So step number one, get that mindset check if this is something that you absolutely want to do. Let me rephrase that. If this is something that you're willing to do. So again, if it makes sense, I'm not asking you to do something that doesn't make sense. I'm asking you if it makes sense, will I go through with it, right? So this is assuming that you've already met the criteria that after the fact. So you're starting with the end goal and moving backwards. So I want to make sure that we're aware of that. Now let's go into number two. Let's go into the financial assessment. The second thing that you're going to look at is there's three main costs with home ownership, and oftentimes we just miss these. So I want to make sure that we're in the same place. Ongoing cost. So your ongoing cost, we all know that there's a mortgage payment, right? If you are financing the home, we know that there's going to be a mortgage payment, but there's additional expenses with home ownership that we often overlook. That's the utility cost. That's the repairs. These are some of the things that we may not have to worry about if we're renting, if we're doing, if we're leasing as an example. So as an example with repairs, if your water heater goes out and you're renting a house or an apartment, well, you can call your landlord and they're going to take care of it. You're not going to be responsible for making that $1,500 to $2,500 expense or repair. Well, when you're home ownership, those ongoing costs continue to add up. The ongoing maintenance, the ongoing, of course, we already talked about the payments. We already, the HOAs, the payment for utilities. These are ongoing costs that you need to take into account that you may not have to pay for when you're renting. So that's something that you need to be mindful of. The second thing to be mindful of is your transaction costs. So the cost to actually do the transaction, the cost to actually purchase a home. This right here, this is something that's overlooked. So there's two types of transaction costs. There's the down payment, so how much you need to take from your bank account and put it into a home. So the down payment, if you get an FHA loan, the minimum down payment would be 3.5%. If you're going to get a conventional loan, the minimum down payment that you're going to be asked for is 2%. So again, you have the down payment cost, down payment expense. But what's often overlooked is the closing cost. So closing cost is it's going to vary across the board, but it's going to be title work. It's going to be lender fees. It's going to be prepaid. So you're going to be prepaying home insurance. And you're also going to be prepaying property taxes if you're closing here for Irving. So again, if you're thinking about buying in Irving, this really applies to you. And we're going to go and look at Irving itself. We're going to look at the price points. We're going to look at the mortgage payment. We're going to look at the property taxes for Irving specifically. So I know we have a ton of other cities here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but it's important that we isolate it down to Irving because there's different property tax rates that are going to affect your home mortgage payment with that particular city. So again, transaction costs, you're looking at a down payment, and then you're also looking at that closing cost. So for closing costs, add yourself about 3 to 5% more in closing cost alone, which again is going to cover your title, it's going to cover your lender fees, it's going to cover appraisals, it's going to cover the prepaids of property tax and home insurance that you're going to be asked to pay for at closing. So these are the transaction costs, the actual cost for you to do the transaction. That's something that we can't overlook. And something else we can't overlook, or we shouldn't overlook, is the moving cost, right? You might be moving from out of town. Well, if you're moving from out of town or out of state, it's going to cost thousands of dollars to land in Irving. If you're moving even across the street, if you're living Carrollton, it's going to cost you money to move to Irving, right? So you're moving, not only are you moving your furniture into your new place, but you're also looking to leave your place, invest in your place, whether you own it or rent it. There is a cost of you repairing and fixing up where you currently live, moving your furniture over, moving your belongings over to your new home, and either repairing or upgrading your new home as well. So there's a cost. There's a cost to leave where you're at, the cost to transport, so transportation of your belongings, and there's a cost of your new spot. The new spot could ask you for a deposit for your utilities, depending on credit, right? So there's a lot of different factors that go into it. So not only do you have to clear the hurdles of the transaction cost, but you also need to clear the hurdles of the cost to move. The cost to move is often what leaves our clients a little bit on the shaky side because it can add up to several $1,000s if we're not careful, and also depends on where we're moving from. Let's be mindful of that. So financial assessment, we must do that. Now let's talk about number 3, getting pre-qualified. After you ask yourself, hey, if this makes sense, will I buy? And if the answer is yes, let's keep moving. After you go through your financial assessment and understand, okay, well, I understand that there's going to be additional moving costs. We may not know exactly how much. I'll show you exactly how to calculate that for Irving. I understand that there's going to be ongoing moving costs. I understand there's going to be a transaction cost, and I understand that there's going to be cost to move. If I want to push it to that next step, if I want to go to that next level, we're going to need to get pre-qualified. So assuming that you're not going to buy the home cash, it means that you're going to get a lender. And getting pre-qualified is one of the best ways for you to get clarity on what your budget is. Getting pre-qualified is one of the best things that you can do to show to the seller, any potential homeowner out there that you want to send an offer to, that you're serious. This is essentially the prerequisite to that. So getting pre-qualified with the lender, whom is going to take basic information from you, what your employment is, what your assets are, your credits, your credit history, what debts you have. It's going to take this financial snapshot of you and your essentially your finances, and it's going to give you how much they can pre-approve you for. So this is something that can be done within minutes. In fact, we just had a client that is under contract for a home out in Meritage, for Meritage Builders in Lavon, and he submitted his application within 10 minutes. The lender reached out, asked him a few clarifying questions, and within 15 minutes, he had the pre-approval in hand, and we were under contract within 30. It can go that quick. It doesn't need to be a very daunting thing. It's something that can go relatively quickly. But here again, it lets the sellers know that you're serious. So whenever you're going to submit an offer, a pre-qualification letter will accompany that. It sets a realistic budget for you, so this way you don't have to guess of how much of a home you can purchase. So whenever you go on Zillow and look at the prices that homes are on your search, the prices of the homes, then you don't have to guess at what your budget's going to be. It doesn't. And simply because you got pre-qualified for a certain amount doesn't mean that you need to spend the entire amount. It just means that you got you got approved up to that amount, which is huge. Now, one pro tip here is let's get quotes from multiple lenders. Getting quotes from multiple lenders is super important, given that lenders offer different rates, different closing costs, and they're not all the same, right? So there's a service component of it, which is very important, but there's also the rate component, the closing cost component, the expenses for you to work with that lender. So I suggest that you start off with your bank, and also if you don't have any relationships with the lenders, then reach out to a real estate agent that you trust. And also I'm going to show you exactly how to vet them out to get their recommendations of who they've worked with in the past. So we have our preferred partners that we work with, which are linked down below here. If you're looking at to move into the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex or really across the country, many of those partners actually work multiple states. It is linked down there for you. But let's talk about finding that right real estate agent, because that is super important. You are looking for an agent that has experience. You're looking for an agent that not just has experience in real estate, but has experience in your local market. You want to understand their value proposition, their negotiation, the resources they have, the network that they have access to. At the end of the day, let's keep it simple. Half of the real estate agents out there in 2024 did 1 or 0 transactions in the entire year. So I'll say that again. Half of the real estate licensed agents out there, half of them sold 1 or 0 transactions last year. That is alarming. That is alarming for you, right? So simply because you have a friendship with somebody, simply because you went to high school with somebody, simply because they happen to even be your family members, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work with them. And it's very important because especially now with the new rules that govern buyer agent commissions and the disclosure that they need to make, the competition that's out there, the real estate market that we're in, you need a real estate agent that has experience in real estate and in your particular market. So selecting an agent, having the faith that they know what they're doing because they have the real estate license, is not the best way of going about it, because chances are that they don't. Statistically, just in general, you have 50-50 shot that the agent that you stumble across is going to have sold 1 or 0 transactions for an entire year. You want somebody with experience. So if you're looking for a real estate agent, and if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, we'd love to connect with you. We'd love to share with you how we're saving our clients so much money, how we are saving them so much time with a ton of information like you're seeing here on the YouTube channel, but also in our internal workflows, which you can see a bit of that today on everything that we give access to our buyers and sellers. Part of it here is the masterclass that we're going through to give you an idea of the value proposition that we bring to the table. But finding that right real estate agent is super important in order for you to get into a home of your dreams. But let's talk about the home search strategy for Irving, and then we're going to go into look at Irving itself real quick. So you're going to want to get 2 lists together. You want to get the must-have list at most 5 items. These are 5 things that you must have in your home purchase. If you must have a pool, put that down. If you must have a certain type of kitchen, put that down. If you must have a certain size yard, put that down. Get your must list together. Now, here's the thing. Don't be like one of our clients here recently that were spouted off about 23 different musts. If you have 23 different musts, you are not going to get a home. Even if you were to build brand new, and you have 23 list of must in your brand new home, that's going to be very challenging to do and very expensive to do. So get yourself up to 5 items on your must list. So again, get the absolute things that you will not compromise. And then get yourself the wants list. Now this wants list can be a little bit more expansive. This wants list is one that can be a little bit more flexible. It has a bit more flexibility baked into it. So you have all these options that you're going to go into. You can, have a home that might meet all of your musts and most of your wants, but doesn't get discounted because you have all of these items on your must list. So essentially you're wanting to give yourself a bit of flexibility on the homes, because no home is going to have everything that you absolutely want. Even if you were to build from scratch, there's certain things that just cannot happen with your particular tastes, whether that's the layout, whether that's the design, whether it's what have you. It's very challenging. All right. So now we're going to do some safe searches when we're looking for homes, and I'll show you the homes that are available for sale right now in Irving. Let's go over there at the moment because I can already feel myself losing my voice. Let's look at Irving, Texas right now. If you go to JaimeResendiz.exprealty.com, you're going to see access to the MLS listings. And right now there's 498 properties available for sale in Irving. Now this includes all types of properties. This includes commercial, this includes condos, this includes everything. So we're going to remove those and only look at single family. Now what I want to show you here is the market in Irving as it exists today. Certainly we can go through various stats. I'm going to X out of here for a quick second so you can see everything. So one of the biggest reasons that a lot of our clients select Irving is because of its incredible location. As you can see, this is the heartbeat of DFW. Well, technically Coppell is what I call the heartbeat, but let's call this a main artery. Let's call this a main artery because it connects you to anywhere and everywhere. In fact, this is actually where technically the airport happens to be. So half of the airport is in Irving, as you can see here. And you have access to Dallas relatively quickly. Here in about 10 to 15 minutes, you're in Dallas, downtown Dallas. In about 25 minutes, you're in Fort Worth, assuming that there's little to no traffic. Now, what we're going to do, just to give you an idea of the real estate market that exists here, is we are going to go to just focus on the price point. We're just going to focus on the asking price. So we're going to say that show me homes that are under 400,000 to give us an idea of how many homes are available for that price and the types of homes that are available. Now this says a lot. You're going to see that most of that inventory that's under $400,000 is in the south part of Irving. So as you can see, south of Northgate, that's where most of the inventory that's south of 400. Now what we can do is we can get a little bit more molecular if we want. Let's go down to 300. And you're going to see that shift even further south, right? So if you're looking for a property in Irving that is under $300,000, your best bet is going to be south of 183. And these are the types of homes that you have available for that price. Just to give you an idea, if you have a pre-qualification in that amount or 300 or less, this gives you a good understanding of what we're working with. Then if we go over here, you see the homes that are available for 300,000 or less. But let's continue as we look at this and start scaling this up. So let's go from 300 to 500,000 to give us an idea of the price points that are available and where they are in Irving itself. Now you're starting to see a picture be formed. So you're going to start seeing up here, which is what's called Valley Ranch. Up here's where most of the inventory, where some of the inventory between $300,000 and $500,000 exists. So essentially the price point starts opening up north of 635. And here again, you see more options in the south part of 183, but also the southern part of the south part of Northgate is where you see most of the homes, and these are the types of homes that are available at that price point, which are 100 homes to choose from. Now, one of the as we continue to increase the price, you're going to start seeing something. You're going to see that Las Colinas is going to start filling up. So Las Colinas is a very renowned area here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It's where you're going to find CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. You're going to find a lot of folks that have, let's be candid, that have some money that will be residing in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here. Now we're going to go from 500 to 750, and then we're going to go 750 and above, because that'll be the rest of the inventory. As you start seeing some of the homes here start really looking extremely nice, and even at the $500,000 mark, right? So there's some new construction available, very limited new construction available, but there still exists some, and these homes are fantastic. They are beautiful. But where you're going to see most of, if you're looking at the higher price points, you're going to see a lot of them show up above 750,000. And it should be about 67 properties, and that's when you start seeing Las Colinas show up. So when you start seeing some of the more expensive homes in the area. You're going to see where they used to play the Byron Nelson right here. Hackberry Creek. Check out the homes. Right? So if you're looking for Irving right now, and you're looking at different price points, this is where you can expect to find them. So essentially the luxury spot is going to be right here in Hackberry Creek, towards the middle of Las Colinas. A lot of the gated communities are going to be in and around this area. It's just nice. It's just absolutely nice. Right in through here, you're going to see all throughout here, you're going to see Cottonwood. You're going to see the golf course again that was a host of the Byron Nelson. Just in beautiful properties, which most of these happen to be behind gated communities if you're looking for that type of property. Cool stuff. What's the most expensive? 3.9. Let's just see it. Now that we're here, let's just see what 3.9 gets us. Wow, what a beautiful home. Look at that. I don't even need to narrate it. It just speaks for itself. Very cool. I want to see the golf views. At some point, we're going to get to them. Cool. Alrighty. Let's continue. Home search. You see where the homes are relatively well, at least based off of the price point in Irving. Now, something that we're going to look for is as we continue our home search is how much we're going to pay. How much is our monthly mortgage payment? So with Irving, depending on our price point, it's going to change, of course, but let's do something. Let's go here to our mortgage calculator. All you have to do is go to bankrate.com and go to the mortgage calculator there. And we're going to do a calculation. We're going to see how much it actually cost us to buy a home in Irving. What's going to be our monthly mortgage payment, so we have an understanding what that looks like. So we're going to build this together. Let me move myself off the screen one more time. So here's what we have. Let's just say we're going to buy a home. I think our price point was, what was our price point? Our average price point was like 400 and something. So let's just say 425. Let's keep it there. That was the default. No, so we start from scratch. So you don't think I already pre-selected. Let's just say $400,000 is a home that we're going to buy, and we're going to buy that in Irving, Texas. That's the home that we're going to go after. Now, that thing that we were talking about earlier, financial assessment, the transaction cost, there's certain costs that we need to factor in when we're buying the home. One is down payment, two is closing cost. So one of those is being asked for right here, the down payment. So here we have the option of putting the minimum down payment, or we have the option of putting as much as we want, up to 100% down payment, which essentially means that you bought the house cash. So we're going to put today is, let's just put 5% down. Now, we're not going to go to the absolute minimum, and we're also not going to put 20% down. So let's just say we're going to put 5% down on $400,000 property. So that's 20 down payment. Now, loan term, most of the loans are going to be 30 years that you're going to go with. Now, the interest rate is something that you can easily find out there right now, which all you have to do is mortgage interest rates today. You're just going to Google that. I should probably have done that on this screen, and just scroll down to see what the mortgage interest rates are doing right now. I like to go back to bank rate as much as possible because they tend to update it even on weekends to give you an idea. On Monday, it seems to be 6.886. Now, your interest rate is going to vary, depends on how much you put down, depends on your credit score, depends on a few different things, but for our purposes today, we're going to say that it's 6.86, which is the national average as it stands today. Now, let's move it forward. Don't worry too much about the zip code. This will do some automatic adjustments here, but we're going to do these manually so you see where these numbers are coming from. Don't worry about the credit score because we just made the assumption right here. Now, this is, again, if you were to change this, it would go off and try to do its own thing with property taxes and homeowners insurance. If you change the credit score, it would go off and try to do some additional changes, but we're going to do this manually so we don't have to worry about this. Property taxes. This number does not exist. This number is not real. But to give you an idea, we're going to go back. We're going to go back, and I'm going to show you another number that you won't really have access to if I'm going to be completely upfront with you, but I'll show you what you will have access to. Let's just go to a home that's $400,000 just to show you where these numbers are at. All right, we're going to go to this one, 410. I know it's not exactly 400, but it's going to illustrate the point nonetheless. So what you see here is taxes that were paid previously. Now, these are taxes that the previous homeowner paid. Unfortunately, you as the new homeowner probably won't have access to this amount, meaning that this number is not one that you're going to, is not going to be what you're paying. Your number is most likely going to be higher. Now, why is that the case? Let's talk about that for a quick second. Let's talk about property taxes because they're so important. I promise to get back to the mortgage payment, but this point is so important. We have a lot of folks moving in from out of town. We have New Jersey folks moving in from out of town as we speak. We have folks from Nevada. We have folks from California. Just this weekend, I met with a young couple from California that came over here just this very second. Hawaii clients that we put under contract this past week are flying back to Hawaii. We have a lot of folks that are coming in from so many different states. And every single one of them is shocked at how much we pay in property taxes. And I don't blame them. We have the 7th highest property tax rate in the country. Now, here's the thing. That number that I showed you right there, that's not the number that I showed you. Oh, yeah, it is. I'm sorry. It looked different. This number that I showed you right here, this number is the previous homeowner. Now, why is it the previous homeowner? Well, that's because the previous homeowner probably had a homestead exemption. And with the homestead exemption, they actually pay less in property taxes as some of the assessed value is protected from taxes, if you will. Also, the homestead exemption, depending on how long it was on the property, aka how long the homeowner owned that property, has a certain limit that the assessed value can actually rise. It can only rise up to 10%. So essentially, it was being suppressed through the homestead exemption. It kept hitting the cap, given the appreciation of homes, especially from the run-up of 2021 to now, has just been, 2021 to about, let's call it 23. Was insane. All right, so with that being said, let's do some calculations because I know we're waiting for that. So let's go and find what that is going to look like. So again, this number does not exist. So this is per month. So this is not going to be, you're certainly not going to be paying whatever this number is times was that 3,000 if we multiply that for the year, and then 6,900, almost 7,000. It's not going to be these numbers. I'm going to show you where to go and get that. What we're going to do is we're going to go to, all you have to do is go to Google and type in Irving, Texas property tax rate. And then you're going to go to Irving's direct website, and you're going to go to the tax rates. So by the time you're watching this video, chances are that the interest rate has changed. In fact, I can almost guarantee that it has. So just be mindful of that. But what it's important for us is right here. This number is the most important thing for us, because this is what the property tax rate is at this present moment. Now, as you can see, this number is comprised of 5 different numbers. And that's what most of the cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are going to be comprised of, 5 distinct numbers. One is going to be the county tax rate. Irving happens to be in Dallas County. The second thing it's going to be comprised of is the city tax rate. Well, the city of Irving is going to have its own amount. The ISD, so Irving ISD. In those 3 for sure you're going to have the county, the city, and the ISD. Those 3 tax rates you're going to see. So essentially the top 3. Now what you're going to see in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, you're going to see the other 2 numbers. You're going to see the higher education tax and the hospital network tax. So because you're in Dallas, this is going to be Parkland. Because you are in Dallas County, you're going to be, well, this one should, most of the time says Dallas Community College. So here's the community college district, but it just doesn't have Dallas. So essentially what your property tax rate is 2.1, let's call it 4% in property taxes. This means that 2.14% times the assessed value of your home is what you're paying in property taxes per year. That's how you do the calculation. Now, when we go back here, I'm going to actually do you a conservative estimate. I'm going to pretend that we got assessed this value. I'm going to pretend that this value is what your assessed value of the home happens to be, except that's not right. This is actually what you're seeing on the screen right now is the market value, the value that the home is being sold for and that you're paying for it. That's what the market is buying it for. The assessed value oftentimes is much less, is less. So as an example, with the home that we just sold for a young couple, with a brand new home, I believe we got under contract with them for about $385 or so, and their assessed value right now is about $350. So you see that the assessed value is actually less in most cases. So so what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply this, which again, I mentioned to you right now, I'll repeat it again, is actually higher because it's the market value. I'm going to multiply that times the property tax rate. So the property tax rate is 2.14%. So I'm going to go 0.0214%. That's how you convert it into a, let's see if we can do this. 0.0214 times 400,000. Is that 400,000? This is how much on the conservative side you're paying in property taxes. Again, on the conservative side. So we're going to divide this by 12, and that's 713. And I say on the conservative side about 30 different times because I want you to know that this number here again is a bit higher. If I was going to actually not be as conservative and really wanted to play around with the numbers a little bit more liberally than I probably should, I would probably put the assessed value, I would probably put the calculation down to about 375 because I'm confident that with the just a normal assessment is going to be less than $400,000. But again, I want to just give you a quote-unquote worst case scenario, and that would be that. Homeowner's insurance for property of this value. Homeowner's insurance, depending on the age of the home, we're going to put about $175 for the homeowner's insurance. That has gone high. If the home is relatively, it doesn't have to be new, but is younger and hasn't had a ton of claims on it and you haven't put a ton of claims in your previous home insurance policies, then you'll probably be okay with the homeowner's insurance rates that you're getting quoted. Now, your PMI for a property of this size, of this amount, is probably going to be 150. Now, remember, since we didn't put 20% down, we're paying what's called mortgage insurance. Mortgage insurance is an insurance that the lender is asking you to pay in the event that you default. So essentially, think of it, you're paying about 0.5% more because you didn't put 20% down. If you had put at least 20% down in the purchase of this property, that means that the bank would have financed 80%. You would have brought 20% down to the closing table, and you would be at least owner of 20% of the home as you're buying it. Now, with HOA fees, what we're going to do is we're going to put 0. Although Irving does have a good amount of HOAs, I'm going to put 0 because HOA fees technically aren't paid in your mortgage payment. Now, they are factored in when you're getting a loan, but it's not part of your mortgage payment. Your mortgage payment consists of up to 5 numbers. 1 is going to be principal, 2 is going to be interest, 3 is going to be property taxes, 4 is going to be home insurance, and sometimes it's going to be the mortgage insurance, up to 5 numbers. But with that being said, what we're going to do now is we're going to update this, and we're going to see that for all the numbers that we just put in, we're paying about $3,500 a month to live in Irving if we put 5% down and we're buying a home of $400,000. Again, this calculation, I know we went for 20 minutes on Irving itself, on Irving property taxes, on Irving real estate values, everything Irving. But we got it, and I'm not going to say exactly, but very, 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 very darn close. So depending on when you're watching this video, all you have to do is just adjust this this home value. All you have to do is adjust this interest rate depending on what the internet says, right? And then with the property taxes, you already know what they are and also where to go and find it. So you're able to just replicate what you're seeing step by step to get your own calculation. Now, if you're finding value in this, please do me a huge favor, hit that like button. That's going to really help out the YouTube algorithm to reach more people just like you that are finding looking for information like this that just isn't being shared right now. Oftentimes you get told just the TikTok version of, oh, it's so easy to get finance, it's so easy, like it's going to be this amount, that amount, but you don't know where the numbers are, and also if that person is even right. This, you don't have to trust me. Just go and replicate this yourself and figure out what it actually will be. But let's continue. Now that we have the home search, now that we know, what we're going to do is we're going to actually make an offer. And the best way that I've been able to give you an idea of what the offer can look like is by actually showing you an actual contract. So I'm going to show you what an actual contract looks like. Now, none of this is meant to be me representing you. None of this is meant to be the strategy that you should be using yourself. This is just information purposes only. I don't represent you, of course. Now, if you want me to represent you, by all means, our contact information is down below. But for the purposes of this, as you're looking to buy a home in Irving, all you'll have to do is, let me rephrase that, this contract most likely is going to be used by the real estate agent that you're working with to submit an offer. All right, so the parties is pretty self-explanatory, who's buying and who's selling. So you're going to be put here. If you are married, both of you are going to go on this, even if you are even if one of you is on the loan and the other isn't. If you're married, since Texas is a communal state, you are both going to be on the title. And of course, whoever happens to be the seller, whether it's an LLC or a person. Now the property, this is where you would put Irving, of course. You'd put the city of Irving, you'd put Dallas County, and then the actual address. The lot and block you'll usually find in the CAD, the Central Appraisal District, and your agent's going to be able to find that for you. Now, one of the things that I like to point out for my clients is if there's anything that you saw in the showing, meaning when you saw that home that was affixed to the wall, that was nailed to the wall, screwed to the wall, or glued to the wall, it's staying. And this is and the appliances that most common are going to be staying. It's going to be your microwave, your range, your dishwasher, and assuming that the microwave is attached. Those 3 items are most often going to be staying. Your washer, dryer, fridge, those most often will not be staying. So those aren't even going to be included in the exclusions because they're not affixed. But again, anything that you walked through that property and saw when you were seeing that property and is assumed that it's going to go with the sale. Now, there's going to be some times where the homeowners will put some exclusions here that your real estate agent will need to help you with. Again, so that's why it's important that you have a qualified real estate agent that knows this stuff on what's excluded in the event that, let's just say you went in there and you saw a chandelier that for all of if the chandelier is put here as an example, the homeowner is specifically calling out, I know you saw that the chandelier was attached to the ceiling, but it's my grandmother's and I am taking it with me, and so I need to put it in the exclusions. Sales price, you're going to be sharing with the home seller how you plan to purchase the home. You're going to show how much you're going to put out of your own pocket, aka cash, and how much you're financing and how much you're ultimately going to offer. Now, when it comes to leases, the most common type of lease that you're going to find, at least right now, is going to be a residential lease. So if a home is being sold and has a tenant in it, then that lease is most likely going to transfer over. So you need to be aware of that. And also, if you happen to have like propane tanks, if you happen to have solar panels, if the home that you're trying to buy has propane tanks, solar panels, or something like that, then the fixed fixtures, where are we? Then the fixed leases is going to need to be shown. All right, so now let's talk about earnest and option. So whenever you are purchasing a property, you're going to be asked for 2 things within the first 3 days of signing the contract. So here it's going to be earnest money and option fee. So when it comes to earnest money, although it's not legally required, it's commonly understood that you're going to put 1% in earnest, meaning think of it like a deposit. You're going to put 1% of the home value. So here you're talking about $4,000 if you're going to buy this property for $400,000. Now, this earnest money, assuming that you do not break the contract, meaning where you there's one thing to get out of the contract or terminate the contract, legally within the contract regulations or stipulations, but there's one thing to break it. Even if you break that contract and it's your fault, then that earnest money is at stake. That earnest money does not get refunded back to you. That deposit does not come back to you. So that's $4,000 that you're gambling with. Now, if you go and purchase the property, then that $4,000 gets applied to the closing. So that's awesome. Now, if you terminate the contract within the clauses that you're allowed to, that's why, again, it's important that you have a qualified real estate professional if you're going to buy in Irving. If you terminate the contract within the clauses that you're able to leverage, then that $4,000 comes back to you. And again, this earnest money is just an example of a $400,000 property that we're pretending that we're purchasing. All right, so I think I shared enough on the earnest, but with the option, that's something else that you have the option to do. I guess no pun intended. Whenever you're buying a home, you are most likely gonna request a few days of option, and in that option, you're typically gonna do about 7 days of option and pay about $100 to $200 for that, just depending on how the negotiation goes. But that's pretty standard, $100 to $200 for 7 days of option. In that option period, you are most likely going to get inspections done. And I'll show you what the breakdown is once you're under contract. But within that 7 days, let's just say in this example, within that 7 days of option, you have the absolute right to get out of that contract for any and all reasons. So you can give them any reason that you want or no reason at all. And you can get out of that contract. Now, if you get out of that contract, then of course, you didn't close on that property, but that money that you spent in option goes away. So that was a fee. That's why it's not. That's why I call it, and that's not why I call it. That's why it's called a fee. It's an actual fee. Now, if you go on and purchase that property, then it gets applied towards closing. All right. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. Title policy. Title policy is essentially an insurance, a title policy insurance is technically the entire way of saying it. This is a policy that the title company will give you, or not give you, that you pay for, that lets you know that whenever you purchase this property, you are going to be legally the owner of that property. And in the event there's some title issues, title thing that comes up from a previous owner or a family member of the previous owner that says, hey, this property should not have been sold, it's mine, then the title company with that the title policy is going to indemnify you, meaning that they're going to fight that, and you are not responsible for that. So that's why we even get title policies to begin with. Check to see if there's any what's called cloud on title, so to see if there's any issues with title. And if there is, then they're going to, the title company's responsibility is to get it resolved. Again, it's going to cost money, but in the event that they, well, I won't get into too much molecular aspects there. It's the title policy could be an entire hour-long video in and of itself. And you also have, and everything here is going to be negotiable, but depending on how bad you want the property, depending if it's a seller's market, buyer's market, you're going to decide on who is going to be paying for that title policy. Now, if it's a regular market, oftentimes you're going to see that the seller pays that title policy. Survey is a piece of paper that lets you know what it is that you're buying. So it's going to show you property lines. It's going to show you boundaries of what you're buying, where the property should be, if there's any easements that might be an issue with your property. All right, so the rest of the contract, property condition. The one thing I want to share here is that you, as a buyer, you have the right to receive what's called a seller's disclosure, which by law, by Texas Property Code, the owner of the property needs to show you, give you a seller's disclosure. And this is where you're saying, hey, I've already seen it, or I need it within A, B, and C. So the seller's not required to furnish notice under the Texas Property Code. I know that option exists on number 3, but that's essentially letting you know if it's a bank-owned property, meaning if it's a property that went through foreclosure, they don't have to give you this. But outside of that, most of the homeowners will have to, even if they're investors. Now, seller's disclosure is essentially a list of things that the homeowner is aware of that exist in the property that may be working or not working. So as an example, let you know what type of, let's say, if there's there's smoke detectors, lets you know if there's dishwashers, lets you know if there's any issues with the water heater, lets you know if there's any previous foundation work that's been done, when the roof was replaced. It's going to give you as much information as the seller knows, and their responsibility is to disclose. Possession, you have the option of getting into the home as soon as possible, or if what they do what's called a lease back, a temporary lease back, where the homeowner sells their home and then you lease it back to them for a certain time or money. This typically is done in more competitive markets where you're trying to be as amenable to the homeowner, so you can get the offer accepted. So as an example, when I bought this home that I'm sitting in right now, I gave them a lease back because I didn't need the home immediately. I wanted to facilitate the transaction, and I got this home $20,000 under asking. So here in this particular case, I just had a lot of leverage that I could yield, and I ended up doing it that way. All right, so that is that. Okay, so that is getting into and making an offer, getting to a contract. So showed you what that contract actually looks like, so you have an idea when you are submitting offers. But let's look at when you're under contract, because that matters. So week number 1, just think of it, it's your inspections week. So you're going to put in your general inspection, and here again, you have most likely it's going to be within the option period. So if you find anything that you want that is too much of a concern, and you don't want to pursue that property any further, then you can get out of that contract for any and all reasons. But oftentimes what happens is once you put your inspector in there, there's either going to be some additional questions about the foundation, the roof, the HVAC, plumbing, electrical, something in between. that you're going to get a more specialized inspector and or service provider for that. So you're going to get a plumber, you're going to get an electrician, you're going to get a roofer, a foundation company out there to do some additional due diligence on the property that you're purchasing. Throughout this option period, oftentimes it's normal to negotiate either repairs and or credits based off of what you find. Now, as an example, you're not going to get into contract and then try to renegotiate the entire thing over, trying to get as big of a discount as possible after the inspection. That's not the goal of this. It's the inspection is going to give you a better sense of what the condition of the property is, and if there's something that was not visible by the naked eye, that's what it's more designed to be. So you wouldn't necessarily were able to test in the 30 minutes that you were there. You weren't able to test the HVAC unit, and when you did the inspection, you find out that the HVAC unit needs a ton of work. Well, that's something that you can then ask for a repair and or a credit from the homeowner. That's within bounds. Excuse me. All right, so week number 2 is approval week. So the reason I put just approval week is you're going to work as hard as possible on week number 2 to provide as much to your lender and to your title company to get approved. Now, you're not going to get approved by week 2, but the reason that we put so much stress, and even our checklist, you're going to see in our roadmap, when we're under contract, we put so much stress. We put a ton of stress in the, we put a ton of stress in the, in getting approved. A ton of stress in getting approved. So that's where we provide as much documentation, taxes, where we provide our W-2s, employment information. We provide as much information to the lender that they request for, bank statements, everything that we can, so the lender can get to work and send it to underwriting as quickly as possible, which are the ones that are going to give us really ultimate approval if the loan is going to get approved or not. And during this week, oftentimes that's when the appraisal is ordered. So the appraisal is something that the lender is going to ask for, so they get a sense of what the value of the home is that they're helping you purchase. Now, in the event that the appraisal does not meet what you're under contract for, meaning let's just say you're under contract for $400,000 and the appraisal is up to, let's say, $350,000, meaning that the appraiser out there said, hey, this home is only valued at $350,000. Well, that difference of $50,000, that's super important. What happens to that? Well, the seller, one of 4 things is going to happen. Either the seller comes down to that value and you continue moving the journey, or you come up with the difference, meaning you add another $50,000 out of your pocket so then you can close on that property, or y'all meet in the middle somewhere to keep the y'all both compromise. Seller accepts less, you pay a little bit more out of pocket, and you're on your way to closing. Or none of y'all can, you can't come to an agreement and the contract just gets terminated. Now, here's one thing that is, again, very important, that you work with a qualified professional. That is financing. That's a financing contingency that you need to disclose or really negotiate up front on how many days you have to get financed. And if you're not able to get financed within those certain amount of days, then you can get out. You can get out of that contract. But again, that's why it's important that you have a qualified real estate professional working in your corner to allow you to get out of that contract, so you're not at risk with that earnest money. Week number 3 is conditions week. So the reason I say conditions is because here you're basically cleaning up any conditions that the underwriter came back with. So as an example, a common contingency that's going to come, a condition that's going to come back from the underwriter is saying, hey, if you own these other properties in Arlington, as an example, and you said that there's no HOA fees that you're paying on that, we need you to attest that that's the case, meaning that you just need to provide a letter saying, hey, I'm the owner of ABC property in Arlington, and there's no HOA, and I sign attesting to the fact. That's a condition, right? So there's going to be some other conditions that are met out there. Let's just say if you're a homeowner and want to buy another house, and the debt to income ratio is tight, in many cases you're going to need to lease your home before you can actually get approved for the property. That's another condition. So there's so many conditions that can come up, but you much rather have them come up as soon as possible, ideally in week 2, but oftentimes that's not the case because it's just not. In week 3, within that contract, you're typically cleaning up some conditions. At that point, your appraisal has been received and you need to secure your homeowner's insurance. So from moment of contract to close, again, this is something you negotiate, you're looking at about 25 days. Most of the contracts that I write, if I want to be super aggressive for my clients and I want to beat out some offers, and I know that I might not have as much of a budget to work with on behalf of my clients, then I'll get a little bit aggressive on the closing date to show the sellers that we're serious, to show that we're gonna get this done for them as quickly as possible. I've gone down to, what have I gone down to? I want to say about 10 days. 10 days is pretty aggressive, but I want to say I've done about 10 days. I know for sure I've done 12, but if you want to get super duper aggressive, you can get it done quickly, but you have to have so many things go right. So many things go right. You need to have the title company that knows what they're doing and there's no issues with title. You need to have a lender that moves it and absolutely books it. You need to have just a lot of, like, I'm not suggesting you close in 10. It's very, very improbable, but it can happen. I'm not suggesting you close in 14 days, but on average about 25 days is what I put on contracts. If I want to get aggressive for my clients, because there's some other things that I'm trying to overcome, I usually put about 21 days. If I want to delay it a little bit more because I know it's going to be a little bit challenging to get the financing secured with our clients, I give about 30 days. But again, 25 days is typically where you're going to want to be. Let me rephrase that. I don't want to give you advice on that. Typically where we're at, 25 days. Now, week 4, this is when we start scheduling the closing. So essentially what day, time, and things that we want to do, when we want to close. Utility activation. At this point, we have all the utilities scheduled to be turned on the day of closing so we can get access to it. We do our final walkthrough. I forgot to put that in here. So we're going to be doing our final walkthrough by the closing. Did I put it here? No. Receive closing disclosure with 3 days before the close. So essentially your lender's responsible to send you their closing disclosure or the settlement 3 days before you actually close. It's legally something that they have to do. So you can close on time and you're going to be sure that you secure your the wiring instructions and or have your cashier's check so you can go to the title company and close. So once you have funding in place, you are officially a homeowner. Now, one of the things that we do here within our office, the DFW Homeowner Group, this is a real estate team that I have and I founded, that we do a lot of transactions every single day. What we do is we really take it a step beyond and provide as much helpful resources to our clients as possible. So as an example, when we close, oftentimes when a lot of other agents just say, hey, thanks so much for that fat commission and go by, we actually say, no, we're going to stay here. We're going to help you out as much as possible. So we are continuously sending out reminders, continuously reaching out to our past clients and help them transition into their home. So we'll ask them and continue to remind them, in some cases facilitate this, on what they need to be doing in their first week after they get into the home, what they need to be doing within the first 30 days, their yearly to-dos. So as an example, just right now, as I was looking down here, another one of our clients is asking about property taxes, and they're I'm not going to give too much about their information, but they're asking about when they should be filing their homestead exemption, if it's worth protesting their property taxes. And I'm seeing the appraised value or the assessed value of the home that they have is substantially lower than the market value, which kind of goes to the point that we were talking about. So if you're thinking about buying a home in Irving, Texas, and want the entire blueprint, I mean, we shared so much information right now, but if you want the entire play-by-play, DFWHomebuyerClass.com, you're going to want to check that out. But also, if you want us to be in the mix, if you want us to help you save at least $12,000 in your next home purchase, please feel free to connect with us. We have everything that you need here in-house. We have ISAs. We have researchers on the back end. We have a lot of people that are working in your corner, along with a lot of qualified real estate professionals that are ready to work for you and with you. With that being said, thank you so much for your time. I'll see you on the next one.